What up, nerds? Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie, and today it's time for another edition of my weekly reading wrap-up. Just me over here talking about all the things I've been reading over the past week. But before we talk about what I've been reading, I saw a bit of very exciting news, and I know a lot of people that watch this channel, they found it through my love of the Dresden Files. Recently on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Jim Butcher made a post. Okay, so 12 months is written. I'm doing a writing convention the rest of this week. Then I have to spend maybe a week or 10 days doing corrections and cleanup, and then it will be off to the editing process. Y'all, I've been talking about my hope that we were going to get the next Dresden File book by the end of this year, and it looks like that's going to become a reality. So excited. I've been holding off. I did a reread of the Dresden Files about, was it last year or the year before last? And I stopped at Peace Talks. So I have Peace Talks Battleground and the novella The Law that I still need to reread. I wanted to wait and save those closer to time of the next release. So it looks like I need to be penciling these in on the calendar. So excited. So just wanted to share that for any of you who love Dresden that might not have seen that little bit of juicy news. Now let's talk about what I've been reading. So I finished a couple of books. Really excited about both of those to talk about. Credible Threats is the first one I finished by Daniel Meyer. It's an urban fantasy talking about Dresden Files and my love for it. That is why I loved this book so much. Our main character is 16-year-old Sam Adams, and if we were ever going to get a story to fill the hole that Dresden left us with, we never got to see Harry as a young wizard, as a teenager. We've only ever read about what happened to him and why and how it shaped him to become the man, the wizard that he is in the Dresden Files. This is filling that hole for me in every way possible. Love the characters. I love the cost of doing magic. I love that Sam isn't even sure what all he can do yet and what everything even means. We're getting to experience and learn all of that with him. I'm here for it. I love his humor. This kid is so funny. He's also got a really good heart that's just absolutely gonna win you over. And if it doesn't, well, maybe his familiar, Patrick Swayze, will. I am desperately hoping I get more Patrick Swayze in the second book, which is called Rising Shadows, which I already have loaded, ready to go, hopefully sooner rather than later. But we all know about us bookworms and our TBRs. Here's hoping. The other book that I finished is The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janny Words. Now this was one that I knew when I read the prequel novella The Gallant back in December. When I got that sample of Janny Words' writing, I knew, okay, this is the style that's best for me to read in smaller daily chunks, because it's one that every word's intentional, every word has meaning, every sentence has value, and I wanted to just soak that in slowly. And I wanted to mull over what I read, because I feel like there was what was happening at face value and then what's happening between the lines, if you get what I'm saying. But it got to where I was 65% of the way through, could not put it down. Like everything that I thought would be contained in this book happened in the first 65%, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, there's more. And I wasn't expecting it. I was unprepared for it, but I was absolutely living for it. I love when an author gives me payoff and doesn't wait till the end of the book or the last 200 pages of the book to make it worth reading the book. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I have enjoyed many books like that, but I think I was just hungry for something that fed me small, rewarding meals as I went through, and that's exactly what this did. So if you're looking for an epic fantasy series with a classic feel to it, this is one that I'm absolutely going to suggest to you. I love the audiobook. I think currently only book one is on audio. It's narrated by Colin Mace. Wonderful narrator. Just absolutely brought these characters to life for me. I will say, if you are one who loves audiobooks, but you know you're guilty of letting your mind wander sometimes, do not do this one on audio. Like I said, you're going to want to pay attention to this one. It's not that it's complex, it's just that there's so much going on that you're going to want to try and catch it all. which you're not. I reread so much of it. There would be times I would reread sentences, paragraphs, even whole chapters, just because I was like, okay, I don't think I fully grasped what I just read. Let me go back and read it again. So I'm excited because for me, a serial rereader, I know that this one is going to be a treasure trove of new things I'm going to notice each time that I read through the series. So I am incredibly excited to talk about this book with John from Talking Story and the author Janie Wertz herself over on the Talking Story YouTube channel. It's going to be February 15th, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to link John's channel below if you would like to join us and hear us talk about that book. I just don't even know what that book 2 is going to contain. Where are we going to go? There's so many ways we could pick right up where this one leaves off, but I predict we're going to have some years pass, maybe even centuries, and then we're going to pick up. But are we going to pick up with... No, I'm not going to say that. That could be a spoiler for those of you who haven't read it yet. Moving into what I am still currently reading. So I did a thing. Maybe it was not a wise decision, or maybe it was, but I picked up a new book from each of my favorite authors, Zora Neale Hurston and Stephen Graham Jones. And I started them the same day. So The Life of Herod the Great is the newest one by Zora Neale Hurston. Now, if you're someone who knows about Zora, you know that she's no longer with us. And this story is an unfinished manuscript. Zora spent 14 years researching this historical figure that we know as Herod, that the Bible just absolutely vilifies. Zora's stance was there was more to this man than the way that he was portrayed in the Bible, and she set out to answer those questions. And this is the result of all of her research, but it is fiction. She creates the dialogue that she feels like happened between these historical figures during the life of Herod the Great, and I am just, she has such snappy dialogue. It's punchy, it's very clever, it's intelligent, it's sassy. It's just, man, I don't care who it ever was that Zora would have written about, I would read it. In fact, I have a collection of her letters that I've been slowly working through, also gifted to me by the same lovely person who sent me this one, Evie, from the channel She Was Only Evie. And I'm reading her letters. I am thirsty for anything Zora has written because I love the way that she writes. I love how she puts herself into everything she writes, and I love the depth that she researched people. She was an anthropologist as well, for those of you who didn't know. So this one has been a delight. I'm almost done. I read almost half of this book the day that I started it, and I mean, it's so good. I'm trying to make myself slow down and savor it. Not working. And then the Stephen Graham Jones novel, The Buffalo Hunter, which is going to be out March 18th. Go ahead and get it. I know. I'm not even halfway through, but the first chapter had me. By the end of chapter 3, my gosh, y'all, if I had it in me to just sit still and read continuously until I got to the end of the book, I absolutely would have done this. So this is told in a sort of epistolary, but more along the lines of a nested narrative, where the first chapter is Essie Bocarn, and she has been notified that there was a chapel, a church building that was being renovated, and when some drywall was being repaired, a worker found a journal. And because Etsy is the only living relative, she was contacted about it. So she's reading through this journal. And so that's our story within a story, because it's about a relative of hers, a Lutheran priest, Arthur Bocarn, who was having service one day for his flock. And the door opens. It's late. A latecomer comes in, dressed also in a black robe like a priest. It's soon revealed that this is a Blackfeet Indian named Goodstab. And he approaches the priest after the service and says that he would like to do confession. And so this is the story of Etsy reading about the confession that her relative wrote down in his journal. Do not go look up this book description, because on Goodreads and where was the other place to look? I can't remember. Both places readers had marked certain things and genres that this book falls into. One of them is a complete spoiler. I had no idea that that was going to be in here. Luckily for me, I didn't see it till I read it. My friend Kate, who I'm buddy reading it with, she saw it, so she knew what was coming. I didn't. I should have guessed with Stephen Graham Jones, but then again, you just never know what he's going to do, and I'm loving it. I think what I love most is Arthur Bocarn, the priest. He is a man who the way to his heart is not the word of God, but indeed food. And the way this man writes about the food that the people who come to his church bring to him, I mean, he worships that food just like they come in there to worship God, and I'm just But I'm very early on. I think I'm about to get to the really, really good part of what this book has to offer, so very excited. I'm going to do a dedicated review for that one as soon as I finish it. I want to have that up so that you all will have an idea of what you're in for with that one. I just have to figure out a way to avoid that one particular part that I think would just be delicious if left unknown for you to discover reading it organically. Of course, if you're a fan of Stephen Graham Jones, you've probably already pre-ordered that one. And if you did, you are smart, smart, smart. Barnes and Noble, while they're doing their pre-order sale, they have signed copies that they're selling, and Saga Press actually told me that it's also going to have blood red sprayed edges, so y'all better get in on that. I'll put a link to the Barnes and Noble copy down in the description below. So that brings us to what am I going to read next? Well, a couple of weeks ago, y'all remember I talked about how I wanted to have another comic or graphic novel to read while I am on hiatus from One Piece. In the description, I'll put a few series that I owned but hadn't read yet and let y'all vote. The Watchmen one, so this is going to be my next graphic novel that I'm going to pick up and read starting in the morning. Oh man, this is going to be a delight. It's been a while since I read a good old-fashioned color comic. So Watchmen is next on my immediate TBR, and then as soon as I finish one of the two that I have going right now, well, actually, before I even show you this one, it's going to be Scythe Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. That new release is the third book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. It is serial killer smut. That's the best way I can describe it. I love these books so much. So the third one's coming out on Tuesday. I'm going to be picking that one up and reading it day one, no matter if I finish these other two books or not, because these books, that series, I can't keep my hands off them in the same way their characters can't keep their hands off each other. So that one's next on my list, and then I'm finally going to be reading Don't Tell Me How to Die by Marshall Karp. I am so excited because I started reading this one accidentally a few months back, but I wanted to wait and read it till closer to release date, which is March the 4th. Do I have that noted somewhere? Yes, March the 4th. So I need to get moving on this one so I can have my review ready for closer to release date. I like saving my arcs for closer to release date because there's always going to be conversations about the book when it comes out that I want to be involved in, and I want to have it fresh in my mind to talk about it. Plus, I usually try to put my reviews up for those books closer to when they're coming out so that if you see the review, you're like, ooh, I like it. You'll be able to order that book that day or within the next couple of days, so you don't have to worry about forgetting it. And again, people usually will comment or ask questions on the video, and I want to be able to answer those, especially if it's someone that needs to make certain that maybe a potential trigger or warning that they're looking for, they'll ask me specifically about that, and I want to be able to answer that correctly. So that is it for my week of reading. Of course, I'm here today. That means that Chris and I survived the Orlando Magic 5K. We had really good weather. We had a good time, a good race. We were pretty sore afterwards. We just kind of relaxed the rest of the weekend. We were little zombies on the couch watching. What did we watch? Oh, we finished season 1 of Mr. Mercedes. And then Chris decided to circle the wagon back to Lincoln Lawyer. So we watched a couple episodes of that one. I think he's liking it more now that he's watched a few. I don't know. We'll find out. If he does, I imagine we'll work on finishing season 1 of that this weekend, or we'll go ahead with season 2 of Mr. Mercedes. So that's going to do it for me today. Thank you all so much for joining me to hear about what I have been reading. What have you been reading? And do you have anything you've been setting aside for this next next week for Valentine's Day. All you mood readers out there, hit me up. Let me know what you're reading for Valentine's Day. Y'all already know I'm going to let my Scythe Sparrow be my mood read for Valentine's Day. Oh, I'm so excited. Y'all, that series is such a good series. I saw recently on a trip to Barnes & Noble that they had little special editions, and I already have the little paperback ones, the vanilla ones, no sprayed edges, and I thought real hard about it, but I thought, girl, no, you already have those in paperback. You don't need a pretty edition. Sometimes it's hard to tell yourself no, but I have so far managed to do it. Will it continue? Especially now that the series is finished. I could put my vanilla copies on Pango and then buy my pretty copies. You know, here's what I'll do. At the end of the year, when Barnes & Noble does their 50% off hardbacks in the store, I'll go in, and if they have all 3 in the hardback pretty edition, that will be my sign that I should buy them. And so we're going to put a pin in it until the end of the year. Y'all, here I am rambling again. Y'all know I love to talk as much as I like to read. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will catch you in the next one. This channel would not be what it is today without its patrons, especially those of my top tier: Ev, Sharon, Kate, Andrew, Amanda, Ann, Tara, Star, Gail, John, Chad, Heidi, and Wilbur.